Yes, sir.
I'm a public accountant.
Yeah.
I mostly work with businesses. And these days, what we are discussing with the client is reduced revenue in their business. And we believe that government is not taking right steps because everything is getting worse. Or government is trying to take right steps, but when it needs to be implemented, it doesn't, I believe, work. That's our opinion. What do you think, Mr. Anderson? What government is going to do to stop this or making it better, and when it's going to get effect? When the people is going to feel that it's getting better?
I think people will feel that it's getting better when it is getting better. I think it has to be a reality change, not just a perception change. And right now I would say to you, 2 years ago our economy was going in reverse because of the banking crisis. It's now in neutral. It's not going forward. It's kind of stuck in neutral and it's idling. That's not good enough. How do we make it go forward? I think the key fact is to instill confidence. And I think the key way to instill confidence is to have predictability. Businesses need to know what the tax code is going to look like, what the regulatory rules are going to be, what markets are available to them. We have to set those conditions and get out of the way and leave them alone for a while so that you know what the rules of engagement are going to be. I'll give you 2 facts. Lending. If banks were lending at the rate they historically lend, FDIC-insured banks, there would be $1 trillion more credit in our economy than there is today. Trillion with a T.
Yes, but...
And they're not lending, I think, because of the uncertainty about taxes, because of the uncertainty about rules. Secondly, the largest corporations in this country have on their balance sheets enough cash to hire 4 million people at $50,000 a year. 4 million new jobs. They're not doing that because of that uncertainty. So my answer to you would be, when the bigger banks and bigger businesses start to lend and hire, you will prosper. People will feel better, so you will prosper. I don't think there's a law we can pass. I don't think there's a dollar we can spend. I think it's more about freeing up credit so that larger businesses have the confidence to spend that cash, which then benefits a smaller business like yours.
When do you think that is going to happen?
I'd run for king if I knew that. I don't know. And what I'd like to see, let me know one other thing about this that I think is central that will answer your question more directly. One of the sources of a lack of confidence is the terrible fiscal problem our federal budget has. There are investors who are fearful about extending themselves because they think our government's in such a mess that global investors may react to us the way they reacted to Greece and Ireland this year, which is to say that we're either going to stop lending you money or we're going to charge you a lot more for it, which would create economic chaos for us. I think one way to build confidence is to get our own fiscal house in order in the federal government and reduce our deficit in a sensible but expeditious way. When would that happen? I think the first 6 months of next year are the time for that, for the following reason. We're going to find out in 11 days who's running the Congress for the next 2 years, so we'll know that. We'll also know that very little gets done in a presidential election year because of the nature of American politics, so we've got a 6-month window, in my opinion, from the beginning of January to maybe the end of the second quarter, to pass a real deficit reduction law that will I think, instill confidence in global investors that we're not the next Greece or the next Ireland. And look, we're not going to cut the deficit in half in a year or something. It's going to take a long, slow slog. But turning it back in the right direction can work. We just leave you with this fact. You're a very young man, so you probably weren't in business when this happened, but we were in pretty bad shape in 1990 and 1991. Not as bad as now. But for those of you who run businesses in 1991, it was a pretty tough year. And we were borrowing $400 billion a year to run our government. And George Bush, the father, and Dick Gephardt and George Mitchell got together and passed a deficit reduction law, which people didn't like. And then Bill Clinton got in and passed the second one, which people didn't like. But you know what happened? The deficit started to shrink, confidence started to rise. We started borrowing less and less and less money. Unemployment, which was 8.5% in 1990, was 2.9% by 1999. People went back to work. The Dow Jones went from 3,000 in 1990 to 10,000 by the end of the decade. The GDP, we create 23 million new jobs in the country. Once you get things turned back in the right direction, they can get very good, very fast. I think the way to get them turned back in the right direction is to cut our deficit.